The email arrived at 9:17 a.m. on a Friday. 3 sentences that shattered Marcus Wright's world. Your position has been terminated, effective immediately. Please clear your desk by noon. Security will escort you out. After 7 years of dedication, 60-hour workweeks, and missing his daughter's soccer games to meet deadlines, Marcus was discarded like yesterday's newspaper. What he couldn't know as he packed his family photos into a cardboard box was that in less than an hour, CEO Victoria Harmon would discover her company's survival depended entirely on the man she'd just fired. If you're moved by stories of redemption, justice, and second chances, hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us how quickly life can change, and how resilience can transform our darkest moments into unexpected triumphs. Marcus stared at the email on his screen, reading it 3 times before the reality sank in. 7 years at Pinnacle Technologies, gone in an instant. His hands trembled slightly as he minimized the message and glanced at the photo of his 10-year-old daughter Lily that served as his desktop background. Her gap-toothed smile, usually a source of comfort during stressful workdays, now filled him with dread. How would he tell her? How would he pay the mortgage on their modest 2-bedroom apartment? How would he afford her asthma medication? The marketing department buzzed with the usual Friday morning energy around him. His colleagues typed away at keyboards, sipped coffee, and chatted about weekend plans, oblivious to the bomb that had just detonated his life. Marcus took a deep breath and opened his desk drawer, pulling out a small stress ball Lily had given him for his birthday last year. "For when work gets crazy, Daddy," she'd said. He squeezed it hard. 20 floors above, Victoria Harmon reviewed the quarterly projections with a frown. At 42, she'd built Pinnacle Technologies from a startup in her garage to a $200 million company in just over a decade. The sleek glass and steel corner office with its panoramic view of the city skyline was a daily reminder of how far she'd come. But the numbers on her screen threatened everything she'd built. "The cuts have been implemented as directed," said Howard Reeves, her CFO, standing stiffly by her desk. 32 employees terminated this morning, including all the redundancies in marketing we identified. Victoria nodded without looking up. "And the Meridian contract? Any movement?" "Still pending. Their board meets Monday to make the final decision." The Meridian deal was everything, a $50 million contract that would keep Pinnacle afloat through the downturn and fund their new product line. Without it, the company would start bleeding cash within months. "They're still concerned about the integration with their legacy systems," Howard added. "Their technical team has questions our people haven't been able to answer satisfactorily." Victoria finally looked up. "Get me those questions. I'll review them myself this weekend." Back on the 20th floor, Marcus methodically placed his belongings into the box. A coffee mug Lily had painted. A small cactus that had somehow survived 3 years under the fluorescent lights. Awards for marketing campaigns that had helped build Pinnacle's reputation. His throat tightened as he reached for the framed photo of Lily on her first day of kindergarten. "Marcus? What are you doing?" He looked up to see Priya Sharma, his team lead, standing by his cubicle with confusion written across her face. "Didn't you get the memo?" he asked, his voice hollow. "I've been let go." Priya's eyes widened. "What? That's impossible. There must be some mistake." Marcus handed her his phone with the email displayed. Her face fell as she read it. "This makes no sense," she said. "You're our lead on the Meridian project. You designed the entire integration strategy." Marcus shrugged, trying to maintain his composure. "Apparently, I'm redundant." Priya shook her head. "Wait here. I'm going to talk to HR." But Marcus knew it wouldn't matter. Corporate decisions like this weren't reversed. He'd seen it happen to others over the years, good people who disappeared overnight, their desks empty on Monday morning, their names becoming awkward gaps in conversation. He continued packing while Priya stormed off toward the HR department. A security guard appeared at the entrance to the marketing department, and Marcus knew he was there for him. The final indignity, being escorted out like a criminal. On the top floor, Victoria's meeting with the executive team was interrupted by an urgent call. "Ms. Harmon, I have the CTO from Meridian on line 1, her assistant's voice announced through the intercom. He says it's regarding their final technical review." Victoria excused herself and took the call in private. "James, good to hear from you. I was just reviewing the integration timeline." "Victoria," James Chen's voice was serious. "We've completed our technical assessment, and we have concerns. Major concerns." Victoria's stomach tightened. "What kind of concerns?" "Your team's responses to our integration questions were inadequate. We need detailed answers about how your system will interface with our proprietary database architecture. The documentation we received is missing critical components." "I'm sure we can address any gaps," Victoria said smoothly, though her mind was racing. "Why don't I have our technical lead reach out today?" "Victoria, I'll be blunt. Our board meets Monday. Without satisfactory answers to these questions by Sunday night, I can't recommend moving forward with Pinnacle. And I'm the strongest advocate you have at Meridian." After the call ended, Victoria immediately summoned her CTO, Michael Barnes. "Who's handling the technical documentation for Meridian?" she demanded. Michael shifted uncomfortably. "That would be Marcus Wright from marketing. He's been the liaison between our development team and their technical staff. He understands both the technical aspects and can translate them for the business side. Get him up here. Now." Michael hesitated. "That might be difficult. I believe Marcus was on the reduction list this morning." Victoria stared at him. "What?" "The marketing department had to cut 4 positions. I believe he was one of them." "Who made that decision?" Victoria's voice was dangerously quiet. "It came from the redundancy assessment team. Howard signed off on the final list." Victoria grabbed her phone and called HR. "Is Marcus Wright still in the building?" "Let me check," the HR director replied. After a moment, "Security is escorting him out now." "Stop them. Immediately." In the lobby, Marcus stood with his box of belongings, waiting for the security guard to finish processing his exit paperwork. His company badge sat on the security desk, already deactivated. He felt numb, his mind racing through calculations of how long his modest savings would last, what bills could be delayed, what expenses could be cut. "Mr. Wright." A voice called from across the lobby. He turned to see Victoria Harmon herself striding toward him, her heels clicking authoritatively on the marble floor. Marcus had only met the CEO a handful of times in 7 years, mostly at company-wide meetings where she addressed the staff from a distance. Up close, he could see the intensity in her eyes that had built Pinnacle from nothing. "Ms. Harmon," he acknowledged, shifting his box awkwardly. "There's been a mistake," she said without preamble. "Your termination was an error. We need you to come back upstairs immediately." Marcus stared at her. "An error?" "Yes. A significant one." She glanced at the security guard. "Please reactivate Mr. Wright's credentials." Marcus felt a surge of conflicting emotions, relief that he wasn't jobless, anger at being discarded so easily, suspicion about the sudden reversal. "May I ask what changed in the last hour?" he asked carefully. Victoria hesitated, clearly unaccustomed to explaining herself. "I've just learned you're essential to the Meridian project. Your termination was not properly vetted." Marcus set his box down on the security desk. "With all due respect, Ms. Harmon, I don't think I can just pretend this morning didn't happen. I was fired. By email. After 7 years of service." Victoria's expression tightened. She glanced around the lobby, aware they were creating a scene. "Let's discuss this privately. Please." Upstairs in her office, Victoria explained the situation with uncharacteristic candor. The Meridian contract was in jeopardy. Without Marcus's knowledge of both the technical integration and Meridian-specific concerns, they would lose the deal. Without the deal, Pinnacle would face layoffs far beyond the 32 employees cut that morning. "So I'm suddenly valuable because you realized you need me," Marcus said flatly. "Yes," Victoria admitted. "I won't insult you by pretending otherwise." Marcus looked out the window at the city below. Somewhere out there was Lily's school, where she was probably working on multiplication tables or drawing pictures, blissfully unaware that her father's ability to provide for her had been threatened and then restored in the span of an hour. "I have a daughter," he said finally. "She's 10. Her mother left when she was 3, and it's just been the two of us since then. Every decision I make affects her directly." Victoria nodded, unsure where he was going with this. "This morning, I had to think about telling her we might need to move, change schools, cut back on her dance classes. I had to think about what would happen if she had an asthma attack and I couldn't afford her medication." His voice remained steady, but the emotion behind it was clear. "I can't put her through that kind of uncertainty." "What are you saying?" Victoria asked. "I'm saying I'll help with the Meridian project, but I need guarantees. A 2-year contract, minimum. And I want to lead the integration team going forward, with appropriate compensation." Victoria studied him. In 12 years of building her company, she'd rarely been cornered like this. But she recognized the position she was in. "Done," she said. "I'll have legal draw up the paperwork today." Over the next 48 hours, Marcus worked almost non-stop, coordinating with Pinnacle's development team and addressing Meridian's concerns one by one. He knew the integration challenges intimately. He'd been working on them for months, anticipating questions before they were asked, building relationships with Meridian's technical staff. By Sunday evening, he had compiled comprehensive documentation that addressed every issue James Chen had raised. Victoria reviewed it personally before it was sent to Meridian, impressed by the thoroughness and clarity. "How did you know they would ask about these specific database architecture concerns?" she asked Marcus as they waited for Meridian's response. "Our development team didn't flag these as potential issues." Marcus shrugged. "I listened. When I met with their database administrators last month, they mentioned their custom indexing system. It wasn't an official part of the discussion, just something they were proud of. But I knew it would be a potential integration challenge, so I researched solutions." Victoria nodded slowly, seeing Marcus in a new light. This wasn't just technical knowledge, it was emotional intelligence, relationship building, and foresight. Monday morning, James Chen called Victoria personally. "The board meeting just concluded," he said. "The contract is yours. Your documentation addressed every concern, and quite frankly, impressed our technical team. Whatever you're paying that integration specialist of yours, it's not enough." After the call, Victoria found Marcus in the conference room where he'd spent most of the weekend, gathering his materials. "Meridian approved the contract," she told him. $50 million over 3 years. You just saved this company." Marcus nodded, too exhausted for celebration. "I'm glad. I believe in what we do here." "I owe you an apology," Victoria said, the words clearly unfamiliar on her tongue. "Not just for the termination error, but for not recognizing your value sooner." "Thank you," Marcus said simply. "The contract I promised you is ready. 2 years, leading the integration team, with a substantial raise." She hesitated. "But I'd like to offer you something else instead." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I want to create a new position, Chief Integration Officer. Overseeing not just Meridian but all our major client integrations. Reporting directly to me. 3-year contract, executive compensation package, and flexibility for your daughter's needs." Marcus was stunned. "Why?" "Because this weekend showed me something critical about Pinnacle," Victoria said. We've been focused on technology and growth, but we've overlooked the human connections that make technology valuable. You understand both sides. We need that perspective at the executive level. 2 months later, Marcus sat in his new office on the executive floor, reviewing the integration roadmap for Pinnacle's newest client. On his desk sat the same photo of Lily, now joined by a newer one, Lily at her dance recital the previous weekend, which Marcus had attended without having to check his email or worry about missing an important call. His phone buzzed with a text message from Victoria, "Executive meeting in 10. Bringing Lily's cookies for the team." Marcus smiled. The company had changed in subtle but significant ways since his near departure. Victoria had instituted a human impact review for all major decisions, considering how they affected employees' lives beyond the office. The remaining employees who had been on the termination list had been reassessed and reassigned rather than let go. And Victoria had made a point of getting to know her executive team as people, not just as functions. For her part, Victoria had learned the most valuable lesson of her career, that sometimes the most important asset in a company isn't found on any balance sheet. It's the human connection, the understanding, and the perspective that comes from seeing people as whole individuals with lives and responsibilities beyond their job descriptions. As Marcus gathered his materials for the meeting, he glanced at a small frame on his credenza, the termination email, printed and preserved as a reminder of how quickly life could change, and how resilience could transform a moment of crisis into an opportunity for growth. The company that had almost lost everything by forgetting the human element was now thriving because of it. And the single dad who had almost lost his ability to provide for his daughter had found not just job security, but a new purpose, ensuring that the technology they built served the people who used it, and the people who created it, with equal consideration. In the end, it wasn't just Marcus who saved Pinnacle Technologies. It was the recognition that behind every email, every decision, and every line of code, there were human lives that mattered, a lesson that had transformed not just a company, but everyone within it.